Ang edukasyon ay hindi para sa iilan. Ito ay karapatang pantao, para sa lahat. Obligasyon ng Estado na protektahan, igalang at tiyakin ang karapatan sa edukasyon ng lahat ng mamamayan. Ang karapatan sa edukasyon ay kinikilala bilang isang karapatang pantao sa mga internasyonal na batas at kumbensyon. Maging sa saligang batas ng Pilipinas. Subalit hindi lahat ng bata ay natatamasa ang karapatan sa edukasyon. Sa buong mundo, mayroong 262 milyon o isa sa bawat 5 bata at kabataan sa pagitan ng edad na 6 at 17 ang wala sa paaralan. Sa Timog Silangang Asya, isa ang Pilipinas na may malaking bilang ng mga bata at kabataan na hindi nag-aaral o ang tinatawag na out-of-school children and youth. Aabot sa halos 10% ng mga Pilipino na may edad 6 hanggang 24 na taong gulang ay wala sa paaralan o isa sa 10. Kinakailangang hanapin kung sino ang mga batang ito at alamin ang mga dahilan kung bakit hindi sila nag-aaral. Isinusulong ng Civil Society Network for Education Reforms o ENET Philippines ang kampanyang Edukasyon para sa Lahat o Education for All o EFA mula nang itinatag ito taong 2000. Panahon ito ng pagsigla ng kilusan para sa EFA o Education for All movement sa buong mundo. Mula EFA, ipinagpatuloy ng ENET Philippines ang kampanyang ito sa mas pinalawak na kampanyang pagkakamit ng Sustainable Development Goals o SDG, lalo na ang SDG 4 na may layuning makamit ang pantay at kalidad na edukasyon para sa lahat at kumikilala sa patuloy at panghabang buhay na edukasyon o ang tinatawag na lifelong learning. Isinusulong ng ENET Philippines ang pagpapalawak at pagpapalakas ng partisipasyon ng mamamayan para sa mga reformang pang-edukasyon sa Pilipinas. Gayon din ang pagpapatupad at pagpapaunlad ng alternative learning systems na naglalayong maabot at maisama ang mga mamamayang mahihirap at naisasantabi. Kabilang sa advokasya ng ENET ang sumusunod. Edukasyong walang isinasantabi, may pagkakapantay-pantay at may kalidad para sa lahat, o access to inclusive, equitable, and quality education for all. Alternatibong sistema ng pagkatuto at edukasyong may kapakinabangan sa buong buhay, o alternative learning system and lifelong learning. Pagbibigay proteksyon sa mga bata at positibong pagdidisiplina, o child protection and positive discipline. Edukasyong hindi naghihiwalay sa mga may kapansanan o inclusive education for learners with disabilities. Karapatan at kagalingan ng mga kaguruan o teachers' rights and welfare. Sapat na budget sa edukasyon at wastong pamamahala sa edukasyon o education financing and governance. Edukasyong may pagtatangi sa pagkakapantay-pantay ng kasarian o gender equality and education. Para maisakatuparan ang mga advokasya ng ENET, isinasagawa nito ang sumusunod. Pakikipag-ugnayan at pakikipagtulungan sa iba't ibang sektor at education and development stakeholders upang magkaroon ng makabuluhan at maunlad na pagbabago sa mga patakaran at kasanayan sa edukasyon. Pagsasagawa ng mga pagkilos at proyekto upang maitulak ang mga mahahalagang reforma sa edukasyon para sa mamamayang na isasantabi at napag-iiwanan sa lipunan. Aktibong paglahok sa mga proseso ng SDG at SDG 4 sa lokal, nasyonal at internasyonal na antas sa mga plataporma na mayroon ang gobyerno at sa paglikha ng iba't iba pang daluyan ng paglahok ng mamamayan upang maitulak ang pagsasakatuparan sa SDG 4. Pagpapalakas ng kapasidad ng ENET members at partners at pagbibigay suporta sa mga advokasiyang pang-edukasyon at pagsasakonteksto ng SDG 4 sa kanilang sektor at lokalidad. Mahigpit na pakikipag-ugnayan at pakikipagtulungan sa mga regional at pandaigdigang network na nagsusulong ng kampanyang pang-edukasyon. Tinatanaw ng ENET Philippines ang isang lipunang Pilipino na kumikilala at nagtitiyak na ang karapatan sa edukasyon ay batayang karapatang pantao at lahat ng mamamayan ay nagtatamasa ng edukasyong multikultural, patas sa anumang kasarian at mapagpalaya.
Good afternoon! Maraming salamat to our regular viewers and listeners. It's Saturday again, Sabado na naman po. Our regular program, Senior City Kwentuhan, from 3 o'clock to 4:30 in the afternoon every Saturday. And reminder po, every Tuesday, meron ring Senior City. More about that. Ngayong Sabado pong ito, Girlie and I are your usual co-host. Ano ka naman?
Hello! Masaya kami kasi nananalo na ang climate change advocate natin sa US.
Anyway po, this is a live cast via Zoom, pero you can also watch and listen po through various Facebook live na simultaneous po yan, the different hosts sa Lapis Siso channel, Inet, Senior sa panahon ng COVID at iba pa. And more important po, this is being recorded. So kung hindi kayo nakahabol or you want to repeat, it will be available on those channels. And you can download it later kung may USB kayo para padala sa inyong fans.
Yes,
And this afternoon,
yes.
we have special guests who have many fans in our Facebook. So many already responding when they found out they are our guests. Alam po nyo, well, we know Arnold and Norma from long way back, and we were really thinking of getting them as guests. Pero the one that triggered my invitation for them was it Norma or Arnold who posted sa Facebook page that they were harvesting their lanzones in their fruit and forest farm. So I told Girlie, now is the time to invite Arnold and Norma.
Yes.
Ano? And for those, I should start with their full name.
Okay.
Si Norma Javellana po is from Antique, but she can just describe her. And the other, I don't know if you can pronounce his name, but I hope pronounce it correctly, Arnold Vandenbroeck. Correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so welcome, Arnold and Norma. Could you just greet and introduce yourself to our listeners?
So, okay, we are very happy to be able to share via this channel. I'm originally, I'm a Belgian, but I've been in the Philippines for a long time. So I feel more Filipino than Belgian, I would say. Norma.
Ako, siyempre Pilipina, no?
Of course.
Of course. Ang aking mama ay from Iloilo, ang aking papa ay from Cebu, ako ay Mindanao talaga, no?
Oh, really?
Yes.
I thought you met in Antique. I thought you're from Antique.
No. We met in ASI, Asian Social Institute in Manila.
Oh.
Manila kami, no?
Sabi nga ni Girlie, we'll be discussing advocacy, environment. Sama mo naman ang love life ng dalawa.
Of course. Saan sila nagkilala?
Briefly. Not all the
Sa ASI pala.
exciting details. Arnold, when did you come to the Philippines and when did you meet Norma?
I came to the Philippines as a lay missionary with CICM. And then we were classmates in the Asian Social Institute, taking up sociology. Then together we after Manila, we worked 5 years in Busan. That's where our children were.
Busan.
Yes.
Then we were a few years also in Holland, and then after that we were 8 years in Antique, where our children finished elementary and high school. And after that we moved to Davao for the last 20 plus years.
So what year was that when you came to the Philippines, Arnold?
Well, that's 1974.
Oh,
Barcelona.
wow.
Yeah,
Tagal
I was only 22, I think, when
Oh, grabe.
Okay.
Millennial pa noon. So anyway po, of course, there's a lot to talk about.
Yes.
In fact, yung their time in Antique, Arnold was there because you were the one who initially conceptualized and managed ANIAD, yun.
Well,
Antique Integrated Area Development Program.
With Goldie.
I was in Antique together with one of your guests, I think 2 sessions
Yeah,
ago,
Gordy.
Chan.
Ah,
So we were
Gordy
together in
Chan.
the project management office.
correct.
Okay.
That's why I associated you with
Yeah.
Antique. I didn't
Yeah.
realize.
Grassroots specialist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the reason po we invited Arnold and Norma is because, well, apart from the fact that they are very active, buhay na buhay senior citizens, is because I knew
Dami na nila.
I knew you were planting trees somewhere
Oo.
in Davao. But when you posted, oh my gosh,
Oo.
harvest.
Yeah.
I mean, very few of us, di ba? They always say, you
Pakita mo
plant,
na yung
you plant the
slides.
trees under which you might not enjoy the shade.
Pakita
I
mo
mean,
na
this
yung
is a classic
slides.
case na, and so our first segment po, this first 30 minutes or so, we will be discussing their tree planting, both fruit trees and forest trees
and
in
forest.
Davao. And we're very glad that they sent pictures, which I put together in the slides. So we will just let them make kwento. But so you can also see visualization kung ano yung
Yan.
what do they, ito muna pala, mali ako.
Ano?
I should put screen share muna. Sorry. Technologically, ano na naman ako? Technologically,
Huwag ka na magsabi doon. Go Ed.
tayo muna.
Okay.
Kita na?
Hindi pa.
Nice.
Slideshow.
Dapat
that's our farm.
Slideshow. Play from the start. Yan.
Nice.
Wala
First
pa.
of all, have you seen it? Can you see it na?
Yes.
Perfect.
Why do you call it, how do you pronounce it?
Maligatong.
Maligatong?
Yeah.
Maligatong.
Well, Maligatong is the sitio where we have our farm.
It's a
The
place.
name of a local
Datu
Obo
before.
Manobo Datu who
Before.
died perhaps in the 50s and is buried in one of the farms there. In fact, when we got involved in the area, we did some more research on Maligatong, no? And we found interesting information in the works of anthropologist Manuel.
Arsenio Manuel.
Yeah, and in fact,
Teacher ko yun, teacher ko.
yeah, in fact, what we did to honor and celebrate his legacy, together with some people, we came up with a script about the stories we found in the writings of Manuel, which involved a love story and a war party, etc. And together with some cultural artists here in Davao, like Don Pacusara, we came up with a 2-hour play.
Yes.
So the title of the play was Ang
Tanaman.
Tanaman sa mga Bantugan, or in English, The Garden of the Brave.
Yes.
Wow.
The Garden of the Brave. Ganda.
Yeah. So that's the origin of the name Maligatong.
So because you said you transferred to Davao, 1996, 97. So you already you were looking for a place to plant trees. Ganon.
Yes.
In fact, our looking for a place in the mountains was inspired by our experience in Antique. We had been involved in some upland agroforestry in Sibalum, in Kulasi, the upland municipalities there. We said if we go to Davao and we will stay there perhaps for the rest of our lives, we need to have an upland farm. And luckily through friends also we found a piece of land, 5 hectares, basically owned by a bigger landowner who was forced to sell it under the agrarian reform, compulsory acquisition, voluntary offer for sale. So basically, he had 11 hectares. We got 5 hectares, and 3 of his tenants are now our neighbors, who each have 2 hectares. So it's also an interesting story by itself. But most probably, we are only the 3rd generation of lowland or non-native, non-indigenous caretakers of the land, we would say. So that's the story of the land, no?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So it's so nice. So these are all all the pictures you can see po on the screen. I made a slide, but these are all pictures ni Arnold at Norma. And some of this is part of a slide show they sent to, I think, a conference on permaculture, no? You mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So siguro, the first question is, well, tama na. Let's start muna with the fruits because paborito ko.
Yes!
How many lanzones trees do you have there?
At saka,
Yan, masarap yan.
We must say in this year of COVID, we have never had such an harvest in our farm.
Wow.
Hundreds, and even our mangosteen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We harvested 3,500 kilos of mangosteen.
wow!
Yeah.
So, which we also distributed, so etc. So,
Oh, sana dyan kami.
the lanzones, perhaps we have something like 50, 60 trees. Oh, how many?
I don't
Sort
know.
of different kinds, longpong, native, etc.
Loko.
So,
Galing. How many years before they bear fruit?
Ten?
Lanzones. Mangosteen matagal, I know.
well,
Hindi.
we have monitored that a bit. Our mangosteen, the fastest to bear fruit was after 7 years.
7
The
years.
longest it took was 13 years because
Oh.
we started in our farm. We had something like 5 trees, and then from our own seeds we grew more. Now we have something like 165 mangosteen trees. The
Wow.
lanzones,
Wow!
it's a bit similar, but
Yeah.
Pwede na kayong mag-value chain. Mangosteen tablets, mangosteen wine, mangosteen ano.
And mas maganda pa po the next slide. That's why I also like, apart from the fact that lanzones is one of my
Next
favorite.
year, dapat
favorite fruits.
nandyan na kami ni Ed.
Oo nga, sige.
So, ang next
Yan.
picture po,
Yan,
they
ganyan.
also posted in Facebook that they brought many of their lanzones
Let
to
them
certain
tell that
urban poor
story.
communities time of
Si
COVID.
Norma.
Norma, you tell us a
Kwento mo.
bit. Why them? And who's your
Kasi-
group? Ano, ganon.
Kasi meron akong, member ako ng Tambayan Center for Children's Rights Incorporated. Yeah, that's the NGO. And then,
Okay.
ako yung chair. And then, siyempre, meron kaming mga coastal areas na lockdown nga yung iba, no? Yung hanggang ngayon, mahirap doon, no? So, and then, sabi ni Maya, why don't you give these lanzones to your children? Sabi niya. Si Maya pa ang nag-encourage sa akin kasi nahuhulog lang at saka mura. Mura
Mura
from the
talaga.
farm, no? Sabi namin, wag na lang, wag nating ipagbili yan kasi 5 pesos only.
Oh!
Wow, in the farm, ha?
Oh.
Kasi ang dami talaga, bountiful. Lahat ng farms merong lanzones. Yun.
Wow.
Pero kami lang yata yung masarap ang mangosteen.
Okay. Advertisement. Mangosteen coming from
Kaya
watch out.
mga more than 100 kilos of lanzones, binigay namin doon sa area. Through the NGO.
NGO.
So the staff went there, i-repack nila, and then distribute nila. That was very good.
Galing.
Galing.
Actually, biro po niya, we were just telling Arnold and Norma before we started the live broadcast, we buy lanzones flown
120.
from Davao to a retailer here, 120 pesos per kilo. I saw sa Facebook post nila, 20 pesos per kilo.
Yes, that's what
Grabe
they're selling.
talaga. But when you did the farm, as you said, fruit and forest
Really.
farm. So you plant primarily mga timber forest, especially mga siguro local species, So the next slides po ipakita rin natin. We start, remember the spirit is, imagine they're already harvesting the fruits of their labor. Remember there is the saying na when is the best time to plant a tree?
Now.
It's 3 decades ago, and the next best is today. They did the first good thing, which 23, 23? 23 years ago, nagsimula sila. And this is their first harvest. This is their first, some of the big trees. Itong isa, lawaan, the one you're hardwood yan.
in fact, when we started in the farm, we were informed our antique experience, and then we focused more on mahogany, which
Yeah, kasi nga, harvestable, ano?
we wouldn't do now, but now, in fact, we surrounded the farm with 2 lines of mahogany, all around something like 1,500 trees, no, which are really harvestable now. But
Yeah.
then, over the years, we have done a tremendous effort. We wanted to get the lawaan. The lawaan, or the scientific name dipterocarp, is the
Yes.
typical
Dipterocarp.
rainforest tree of the Philippines and Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
There are perhaps there are several kinds, no, white lawaan, red lawaan, palosapis, mayapis, etc. So we have something like nine different varieties.
Varieties, wow.
And the nice thing is that the word dipterocarp, it means double-winged fruit. That's the basic characteristic of the seeds. It can be more than 2 wings, but at least 2 wings.
Yeah.
So when we were there, when we came there in the area, people, especially the old people, had stories about, before we could walk here under the trees, and it rained lawaan seeds.
Wow.
And for me, that was a powerful image to say, can we hopefully recreate something like that for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren? And now the first of our trees have started to give seeds. So that's the story. The lawaan is very, very powerful in imagery and also in usability. But for us, we don't want to cut the lawaan trees. We want to use it as
to propagate,
seeds, to distribute for other people to use. That's the.
So, but where did you get your first planting materials? DNR or neighbors or where?
We got it from all over the country. Wherever we went, we looked for it. We got seeds and seedlings from Nueva Vizcaya, from Palawan, from Surigao, from Bukidnon.
Because he was with Sibemo, no? So he was going around.
That's right. Yeah, so you could
travel. Wherever he would go, he would get seeds and then bring them to our farm.
Or seedlings,
Seedlings.
So
it's
kind of focused.
We have our first check-in na lang. Hanika is watching us.
Hanika. Okay, hello.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Arnold, because nung una nga, when I said, mahogany, remember, some people say, don't plant mahogany because, that artificial forest in Bohol raw, no birds there because pag mahogany. But mahogany is really for harvesting. It's timber.
Yes.
As you said, dipterocarp, lawaan, and all that. I mean, and you get it from so many places in the Philippines. So it is not just a Davao timber forest. You're bringing in from different parts of the Philippines.
But have you already tied up with all the other organizations that want to do what you're doing?
There is an association of, they call them what? Enthusiasts of native trees.
Native trees enthusiasts.
Yes.
I mean, we are also
part of that. We had one conference in Mindanao, no?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So if you were asked, because of biodiversity, what is your rough estimate? How many varieties of at least trees, both fruit and forest trees, are there in your 5-hectare farm?
Plenty.
I think the fruit varieties perhaps around 25. Other trees, I think around 68.
Wow.
So there is room for improvement still. But that's the.
We should link it to the former DNR Secretary Vic Ramos has been inviting us, but we have not been able to go. In Pangasinan, he also, it's only a few hectares land, but he is very conscious planting all kinds of varieties of indigenous trees, whether endemic or just indigenous. So, but your case, later you mentioned that it can become already a place for learning and educational tours. So many,
In fact, there are so many. Just to talk about one tree, we have several of them. I don't know if you know that tree. It's tuwai or tuwal. It's a tree you find in Nueva Vizcaya
You got it from
and
there.
also in Lake Cebu. So
Wow.
for the Ikalaan, the tuwai tree is a tree you use to make coffins. So they would say, you don't plant a tree, it grows by itself, and later you can be buried in it. In
Wow.
Lake Cebu naman, they use the roots of the tree to make the
Tinalak.
dye for their tinalak.
Tinalak.
For the tinalak.
Yeah, and in the context of Asia, this is a typical tree which is being used by wild animals and tigers to mark their territory, because the
Oh.
tree, it's somewhere in the slides also, but it's not indicated which one, but it's kind of a flaking
Yeah,
milk
The bark,
chocolate
the bark.
tree, or yeah, that kind of thing. So we try to develop and to document and get the stories of the trees, both the cultural aspect but also more the biophysical. It makes very interesting story, and to tell it to others. Yeah.
Wait, I made a mistake. Napabalik ko. Anyway, talking of harvesting, the other interesting thing, there are more pictures, but I got only two. Imagine you're already able to harvest your timber. It is
Yes.
all mahogany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for our little house there.
Okay.
Little build.
In fact, we have been harvesting our mahogany for the past 10 years, I think. And when
Okay.
our children build their
Their
house,
houses.
it was really integrated in like for instance, Bayani, our son, is now developing a new clinic. He's a veterinarian, and
Yes.
all the doors are made from the mahogany we grew. So we say
Even his door.
yeah, all you have to grow your own house, and that's
Great.
so it's kind of, and it's a beautiful color.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Amazing, huh? Sally Bulata is saying hi. She's listening to us.
Hello, Sally.
Yeah.
We'll greet our friends as they.
Come in.
So let's look at the other varieties. Is this the one you were describing? We have
yeah.
Molave, Boulevard,
Yeah.
Kalumpit.
Yes,
Yeah.
That one is Dao, I think. What is that?
Imagine, no, this kalumpit, you wouldn't believe it, but that's a tree that is only 20, 21 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, but amazing, is it not? And then on the right side, you have the Molave Boulevard. We really have put a lot of effort to put Molave. For us, it's almost like a symbol for the Philippines, because at the time of the Spaniards, you would have huge Molave forest. And it's a very strong tree. It can be used for all kinds of things.
Yeah, we have in our Philippine literature something on strong as the Molave, something like that.
Something like that.
What about these others? You mentioned something like what? That's the one, Tuwal.
That why there.
Very
It's
sure.
on Norma's, on the right, your
This
left
one,
side,
this one.
Norma.
Okay.
At the left, that one. Yeah.
Then on the left side is Bahay. That's another indigenous tree. We have Molave. Mosisi. They are not all that clear.
Yeah. But I mean, of course, at the beginning, especially hardwood, you shelter them, because they're really hard.
Yeah.
But now that is there, it really needs very little care now, except protecting it or.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's true. And in the beginning, my God, the effort you have to put in gardening and growing the trees. Planting is easy, but making them grow, it's shading them, watering them sometimes. It's
Driving the neighbors'
yeah,
animals.
driving the goats away, or sometimes guarding the neighbors from cutting the trees. Or the weeds. So that's why also we really go, when we plant trees now, we go for big planting materials, seedlings that are 4 to 5 feet high.
Yeah. But as you said, right now, like the forest in a way takes care of itself. You just have to prevent people from illegal cutting or whatever.
Yeah. You have to do less and less, just to you discover new species that are growing, like mushrooms. Huh?
Yeah, later. There's some
Spiders,
pictures of that.
ants, much
Ano?
bigger varieties than before.
Snakes also.
Oh, God, that's right. I'm afraid of snakes.
Me
Yeah.
too, I'm afraid.
Oh, this one is your daughter. I
Maya.
think ito
Maya.
Ipil, no?
Nara.
Ipil and Nara. Lalaki.
Yeah. By the way, ipil, the scientific English name is Moluccan ironwood tree.
Mulukan.
The
Very strong.
ipil reaches its full maturity when it's 80 years old.
Oh.
So
Wow.
we have around 10 or 12 of them, especially also for seeds.
Mm.
So hardwood rin yan, Ipil. It's really
Yeah,
hardwood.
ipil, yeah. And,
We got the seeds from Dumaguete.
we got seeds from Dumaguete and from Palawan and
Yes,
from
yes.
different
Grabe, ay, really. Well, you should write, have you started even a thick pamphlet or a thin book about the farm and the trees,
Yeah.
including the kwento, where the planting materials came from? Malaking bagay yan, ah.
Yeah, we should do
Wait
that.
down.
It's a good suggestion. Yeah.
The next, ito naman, some of the fruit.
Rambutan.
Ano yung nasa upper,
Ito.
is that the chesa? No.
Well, you know, to be honest with you, we don't know ourselves. but it's a tree we got
Looks
in
like Chesa.
which we got in Lake Cebu, and the local nursery people were saying these are forest nara. But we think it
Forest
doesn't look
nara.
like nara. It's but then we said okay, let's grow it, and then we have this kinds of fruits. You can eat them. It's not very tasty, but it's
But edible.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then on the right side you have the mabolo. We have a
Mabolo.
huge-
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
mabolo, yeah. They're
Yeah.
already getting rare here in the sun. That's why I was so happy to see it there, no? Mabolo.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sure, wow, and you said, I forgot again, around how many dozen fruit trees and how many dozen timber
26.
trees, mga 26 fruit trees.
Yeah, the
68 other
different kinds, no? Yeah.
May was one of our friends had a project in Puerto Galera, even got some support from the National Commission on Culture and Art. They call it a forest museum. The whole idea is to set up, it's like a living museum so that people can see. And in a way,
Stand.
you are moving towards
Yeah.
that, especially hardwood, as you say, all these trees, and
Oh.
especially if your direction is not to cut them but to make them the sources of
Seedling.
seeds and seedlings. Ang ganda yan. So now this is going to be really quite a learning.
Yes. My dream si Arnold dyan. Sige, Arnold.
No.
Sabihin
Like,
mo.
what's your dream, Arnold?
No. What do you want to do
No,
with it?
I just wanted to tell one thing about the Mabolo still.
Ah.
You know the famous museum we have in Butuan, the Balanghay.
The Balanghay.
And in the Balanghay, the different pieces of the Balanghay were put together with wooden pins.
Mm.
Yes.
And so research and analysis has shown that the wooden pins that were used were from the Mabolo
Mabolo
tree.
tree.
Oh, so they're
Kamagong. We say it's
So-
kamagong.
We tell that story often, and we tell people, look, it's a historical, cultural tree which we should have in every school compound, or
Yes.
every church.
Balanghay. My gosh.
That kind of the symbol of a Mabolo tree is very powerful to us.
So what's your dream, according to Norma?
Well, that it will become a learning.
Yes, I really think.
Wow.
Oh, si Morris Pierce. Hello daw.
Oh, another good
Crystal
friend,
and
Maurice Pierce.
Maurice,
Saying hello.
Crystal.
And Crystal, okay.
Crystal came to the house.
Oh, also.
Okay.
Yes, with the kids. And
Yeah,
all the kids
yeah.
only, I think.
Oh, great.
Sige, we will have a lot of Mabolo trees. Okay? And Balanghay.
Everywhere.
By the way, we
Oh.
did that. In fact, before via LBC, we sent a whole box of Mabolo seeds
To,
to Nueva Vizcaya.
yes, they asked for it.
Really?
That's good.
And they planted it. They have now their own Mabolo forest.
Yes.
Wow.
Always willing to help.
That was during the time when he was the Sibemo representative. Ano?
Yeah.
There's
I'm just curious, Arnold, Norma. I mean, do you know of similar forest farms,
Yes.
friends or elsewhere?
Yes.
Well,
Si Iking pala.
Yeah, we know some
We know.
friends even here in Davao.
Here in
know that
Davao.
sometimes people focus on one variety, like we
Yeah,
have,
that's good, huh?
it's really as beautiful yakal. Yakal
Ah,
trees.
yakal.
One of the Dipteroca dalawaan varieties, one of the strongest.
Yes.
So yeah, we know a few.
Nila Nestor yan.
Yeah.
Esteo, Sabor. Si
Yeah,
June Ibasco.
We should ask sina
June.
Nes Pestelos and Jun Ibasco in
Ibasco.
Bohol. They should put up
Yeah.
sa
Yeah.
forest farm.
Yeah. Si Lorraine.
Yeah. Si Larry Sarmiento is doing something in Zambales.
San Narciso.
Ito, your mangosteen.
Yes,
Yes.
that one. Yes.
And mushroom.
And mushrooms.
And grabe, huge ang inyong kawayan
And
tinik.
kawayan.
Giant na talaga, no?
Meron pa rin kaming batik na kawayan.
Batik?
Talaga?
What's that?
Where is it?
Merong batik, merong mga ano,
Batik motif, kind
Motif,
of the
oh.
design. It has a natural.
Really?
It's not in the-
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you planted this. These were not the
Yes,
original.
we planted.
This was planted, I think, in 1997 or something. This
Oh.
yeah, and now we want to use it also much more than before.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And then I think this is the last slide for our first segment.
Segment.
And you were saying that the place right now, you are using it both for educational tour and all that. Can you just explain a little your experience? How many have come there, or what do you do? Do you have a guided tour, or?
Yeah. In fact, we started with an NGO that got involved in the area there, no? And as part of the work of the NGO,
What's the name?
EDIS, Integrated Development
Idis.
for Sustainability.
We started that.
Yeah.
And as part of the work of EDIS, a big effort is being made to guard the surrounding areas, the forests, and the
right.
Bantay Bukid.
Forest guards.
There is a network now of Bantay Bukid guards. Some of them are supported by NGOs, others by the government. Around more than 200 people, and different people may be interested in different seeds and seedlings. So anytime, especially this time of the year, the people come to get wildlings and seeds. So yeah.
Because we'll discuss more of that. Yeah.
It's not so many groups that come, but people come sometimes individually. Can we get some? Sure. Or because it's basically a local effort, a local initiative, the surrounding communities. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just let's have a short break from the slides and get back to us so that people will see you not just on the side, but also our full. Allah, I do not know. How do I get back to the full screen? Daryl, how do I get back to my full screen? Stop share na lang. Ayun, balik. Ay talaga, hanggang ngayon hindi ko pa rin alam ito. Anyway, I was asking you, and I thought originally plan ko was to immediately put the location map, but I just realized no, we should let people first see the forest, get the story and all that. But then, other than that, simply as your project, its help, but it's related to your two main advocacies you were telling us, and that's what we will discuss in this next segment about the clean water, watersheds, and green spaces in Davao and all that, no? And they also sent us pictures, including the location map, and so we will ship to that ngayon. And let us say talk about these two advocacies, no? Because you're saying the farm is on the upper slope towards a watershed, no? Let us see. Again, be patient with me. You wait, screen sharing, but I have to get the. Ano ba ito?
Yan na.
No, but I have to start this slide. I should have the slideshow. Ano kaya? Excuse me.
Sorry.
There, slideshow. Play from the start. Hi there. Well, people know they're in Davao, pero siguro explain nyo that watershed pala ito ng Davao City, or watersheds, no?
Yeah, Davao City has many
Watersheds.
big watersheds and very many smaller watersheds. And in the course of our developing the farm, we became much more conscious that we are also part of an important watershed.
Panigan, Tamugan.
Yeah. Panigan, Tamugan watershed. It are two small rivers, the Panigan and the Tamugan, who in the end also connect to the Davao River.
Okay.
And this watershed is basically, in terms of area, it's around 19,000 hectares, and it involves around 9 barangays.
Oh.
On the map on the left, the red area gives an indication of the slope. We are somewhere there where the red area ends and the orange area begins. That's where our farm is.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is that this watershed area, 19,000 hectares, but basically 5,000 hectares is brushland. So a lot needs to be done to maintain it.
Yeah.
And an important aspect of this is in the context of the Davao City water supply. Perhaps you know, or Davaoeños are usually very proud of their good quality water, rightly so. But at the same time, there is a growing awareness that we are over extracting water from the aquifers, and that we are not allowing enough water to seep in to replenish. And that's why a few years ago, the city, also because of partly our advocacy, said we should let the aquifers rest. And instead of digging and sucking out water, we have to use the surface water of the watershed. And that's the idea here. The Panigan.
That's why you send the pictures of the, what's that one?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's it. The Davao City Bulk Water Supply Project is basically tapping into the Panigan Tamugan watershed to supply the city. At this moment, a network of 65 kilometers of pipes are being installed to supply barangays all over the city. Of course, that will only be operational completely in 2023. So we feel as stakeholders in the watershed that we have a role there. We want to help, but we also want to monitor, because there are many things can also go wrong. We have to monitor the construction, monitor the care for the watersheds. There is some quarrying going on. At the same time, through the Bantay Bukid, ensure or enhance that the greening of the watershed gets better and better, because at this moment, the whole idea is that this will be a project for 30 years.
Yeah.
But in our assessment, we say, why 30 years only?
30, yeah.
Does it stop, or will the watershed then be depleted? So this must be a lifelong thing.
Yes.
And all communities or all stakeholders, in fact, the whole of Davao City is a stakeholder in this watershed.
Yeah.
Even if you live in the lowlands, you're affected by it in the long run.
That's for the city, in fact. The water from here is for the city of Davao.
Yeah. Really?
So
In fact, they say also here in the north that they, whether it's electric power, so hydroelectric or what, they should support the indigenous people who are guarding the watersheds. Otherwise, there's a danger that they themselves, due to economic pressure, might not only not guard, but they might harvest. But as you said, there's a big part that is already just grassland. That means denuded.
Because of imagine this area was virgin forest.
Yeah.
After the Second World War. And now a lot of it is grassland, even kogon
already.
infestation, so that need to be rehabilitated. So a lot of concerns, a lot of things to be done.
That's why it's needed here, tree planting really. Tree planting in the hills, yes. So that the water will not only be clean, but there will be plenty of water. Because the engineers of this bulk water supply project said, maybe you have to look for another source of running water just like this, because maybe this will not last. That's why he said. So, wow, that's very dangerous for Davao, no? So, in other words, we have to really plant trees here in the watersheds and be careful that they will not be quarried so much. No? I mean, they will
only quarrying. You sent very disturbing pictures about illegal ba yun? Indiscriminate cutting.
Yeah.
River.
Yeah,
that's from the river.
This was cuttings what happened along the Davao River.
The Davao River. Okay.
Yeah, the Davao.
Sayang
but
this
still,
area.
The same issue, the same concern applies, no? But in this case particularly, when we saw the cuttings, we immediately took pictures of it,
put it on Facebook,
put it on Facebook, and alerted the certain councillors concerned, like Pilar Braga. And the next day, she made a privileged speech about it in the city council, and by the end of the week, there was an emergency meeting of the environmental committee.
Well, this is good news that they're responding to.
Yes.
So it's of course it should have been prevented.
Yeah.
Because the thing is often when the engineers talk of reinforcing or protecting the banks of the Davao River, they think in terms of cement, not so much in terms of bioengineering. So it's a pity.
Oh, by the way, all the way from California, MC Canlas is saying hi to Arnold.
Nice.
And from Zamboanga, ito suki namin ito, maybe you don't know her, si Mary Faith Dagiposo. So we are getting all kinds of interested listeners. But I think it's the combination of your story, the concern, but also I like especially the last portion where people say, you raise voices, nothing will happen naman. Kahit paano you have some experience of at least the local government or some in the local government listening. But as you say, if we could prevent rather than just call attention after the fact, better sana. We experience doon. By the way pala, I have to tell the non-Visayan speaking, Bantay Bukid is not bantay sa countryside. Bukid in Bisaya is mountain. Yung bundok sa Tagalog is bukid sa Bisaya. How many barangays you said doon sa watershed? 9?
Watershed around 8, I think. 8 barangays.
Are they indigenous people, lowlanders, settlers?
The biggest part of the barangays are in the lower portion of the watershed. And there is a big ancestral domain in the upper portion.
May
So that's almost covered by only 2 or 3 barangays.
What is the name of the tribe there, the indigenous people there?
Manobo.
They're Manobo. Okay.
Manobo, yes.
Yeah.
So that's one. I guess, as you said, continuing challenge because you not only have to defend, you must regenerate,
Yes, that's it.
And is it all private effort, NGO effort? Is there some local government, especially city level or even national government effort?
Well, with regards to, for instance, the Bantay Bukid, there is also some financial support
from the city.
Okay, good.
So like allowances,
cell phones.
Guard, correct.
Guard.
But we feel that when we alert the city, it's an important effort also to keep them continuously informed, because responding through a speech in the city council is very good, but how do we go beyond that? How do we get some action, corrective action, that, like for instance now, a big effort is being made by the city with regards to strengthening the banks of the Davao River.
Okay.
But we as CSOs, we are concerned, how do we do that? Is it again only concrete, or can we do it through much more planting of trees?
Right.
Make the whole area much more green, much more sustainable in an ecological sense.
But I'm glad that what you mentioned, that maybe at least the citizens of Davao and the local government of Davao City will realize that the water supply is tied not only to, as you said, preserving, strengthening the Davao River, which is the more immediate, but this tributary rivers from the watershed. At least it's really connected to their own benefit and their own welfare. Is that some far off general concern for environment or indigenous people? It's directly related to your health and your needs, you know.
Yes.
Because like in the to say still something about Panigan, Tamugan.
Yes.
The Panigan, Tamugan are the two big rivers, but there has been an inventory made of all the small little creeks in the watershed, and there are 19 which are basically dried out. So as much as possible, can we find ways through the appropriate planting to revive them? So
that's the one you put in this picture where you are planting something. This next one, is that the one? This one?
Yeah, these are the Bantay Bukid.
Planting along the river banks.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically the effort has been mainly along the river banks, which is good, no? Because sometimes there can be very heavy floods or water coming down from the mountain all of a sudden, so we need more trees. But ideally speaking, the tree planting efforts should also go more into the slopes.
Yes.
Up.
Yeah.
Pero kasi, ang Panigan Tamugan, one of the biggest threat there for me is the chemical-based plantations, banana plantations.
Run off doon.
Kaya, yun. Kaya, one of the advocacy din is try to talk to these banana plantations, the pineapple plantations, that they should go first low chem, and then maybe eventually organic. Go organic. Pwede ba yan? No? Something like that.
Wow.
We don't know, because this is the water for Davao, Davao City, and chemicals is very, But maybe the bulk water group could treat that. What is that? They could separate the chemicals from the drinking water. We don't know. They said they have the technology, but best is do something with the chemical-based plantations up there.
Yeah. Prevention is always better than remediation or mitigation. But I think when we are senior citizens, we already know that we can intervene at different stages. Not always the ideal of solving it from the origin, but sometimes even if we come late, let's still solve it, even if it's later. I think it's part of the perspective we get when we get a little bit older. But I'm glad, in very practical terms, your story illustrates yung whole ecological principle that kay Joey Ayalang, ang lahat ng bagay ay magkaugnay. They all link to each other, no? And in this case, it's so close because water, my gosh. In fact, there was one activist I remember who told us once, Ed, other than saying you are from Davao, you are from Indore, you must say, from which watershed area are you?
Yeah, that's good.
All settlements need watersheds.
Yes.
I agree.
That's true.
That's your basic identity. Rather than a city, perhaps you belong to a watershed.
Correct. That's interesting,
So interesting.
So it's nice that we belong to this watershed, which is very important for Davao City, no?
No, and not only that, you're helping protect and care for it.
Yes.
It's one of those things that, on hindsight, it's more important when you started. Ano, you were just looking for a place, yung dato nandyan. Then it gets more and more important and you realize, oh my God,
That's
it's not
true.
just local, it's Davao and all that, no? Ang galing.
Magaling nga. That's true. And we are already the hair.
But no, I mean, sometimes that's the advantage of senior citizens. We have a longer time frame to look back. And our task is to get the young people to say, don't wait until you get older to discover this. Get it from us.
Green spaces.
Okay, that's outside the city, but I think the one that is more difficult is your second advocacy, promoting green spaces in urbanized areas. Eh, grabe naman itong, I remember you had even rally ba dyan or you tell a story of, I mean, it was part of your original advocacy, but this particular issue right now, if you have the watershed issue, the Davao River issue, what right now is a particular focus of your second advocacy of promoting green spaces in urbanized areas?
Yeah. I will just say something about the
little bit.
picture you see.
Okay.
This is a picture of Clifford Park
In front
that
of the
is
post
right
office.
next to the post office. And there used to be big trees.
Yes.
So the city had announced that we are going to rehabilitate the park.
Improve the park.
And a bit crazy as a first step, what happened? The developers cut all the trees. A few are left. Because, well, in our perception, they wanted to pour concrete. If you see the development now, we don't have a picture. There's a lot of concrete, and there are a few small trees which will take 10 years to grow as big as the trees that were there before.
Yeah.
So we kind of criticize this. That's no way to do things. But in fairness to Mayor Sara, she really said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this happened. This should not have happened. And so she took kind of partly the blame for it, and really, but anyway, it's a nice story to say. You have to be alert. You have to guard all street trees in the city. But I would give the floor to you, Norma, because Norma has another story.
What is my
About
story?
Shrine Hills. Because sige, ikaw.
Kasi we had also an advocacy, Save Davao Shrine Hills. Save, protect Davao Shrine Hills. The hills behind our house, that's a long stretch of
sorry for interrupting you. But Davao, for those of you who are familiar with Davao City, you may have noticed or you may know that there is something like a central low hill in the city. It's basically Shrine Hills.
Yeah.
It covers around 400 hectares with subdivisions all around. And now
then
wait, is this the last? Is this the next picture? That one, or is still part of the park? This one.
That's still part of the park. And
we did not have
we didn't have pictures.
of Shrine Hills, but we should have, no? That started the greening thing of Davao. That green Shrine Hills is green, no? But then it is zoned as for high-end subdivision. So when some people, two big subdivisions started, we belong to the subdivision below the Shrine Hills. We were flooded. So that started our campaign to save Davao Shrine Hills and make it a protected area. But it was a long struggle.
Yeah.
It was a long struggle.
And it's not only our subdivision, but in fact the whole
the
Federation of Homeowners
Association
got involved.
And then we got with the schools below the hill, and then the Ateneo, so because of that, it was a long struggle, but finally the city council changed the zoning. It's now called Urban Ecological Enhancement Subzone. So it's environmental. For that reason, it's supposed to be for massive greening. No more high-end subdivisions, except those subdivisions
Really
that are there already, but they cannot expand. So that's the beginning. That's greening of Shrine Hills, greening of Davao started there.
Yeah.
No?
Oh.
So,
So
then
the-
we said, oh, sige.
So the whole advocacy, which really Norma spearheaded, she was the very militant spokesperson. She still is. They called her also the of Shrine Hills, the
Diwata of
the
Shrine
Diwata
Hills.
of Shrine Hills. Right? But
Diwata.
it started in 2006, and the city council changed the zoning in 2013.
13.
It took 7 years.
7 years. Wow.
Yes, yes.
But then there were no implementing rules and regulations yet. The IRR only came in 2018.
Mm.
Wow.
So it takes, again, it's something, a good pointer for all of us who are involved in this kind of work.
Advocacy.
Don't give up easily. Keep
Yes.
on pushing. Build your second liners because it won't be finished during your lifetime.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But
No, it's
still,
a nice perspective. Let me address lang. Mga ka-senior, if you are listening, this is not only inspiring, it's instructive to give us a perspective. If it's there, okay, raise your voice. But sometimes be happy if there is some who will listen. But then be prepared. Sometimes it will take much longer than you think. But
that's
yeah, you cannot give up, and then prepare others to continue the work beyond. But no, but for me also, well, better naman that this story is there is some response.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
yes.
late, it's slow, rather than saying, "Oh my God,
Nothing
Ed, we have
happened.
been doing all this thing, and we're knocking our head, nothing is happening." That is more depressing. In this case, may nangyayari talaga, no? And I'm glad that.
I have one interesting aspect to share, no, because the city was telling us, you want to advocate for greening this hill, but how do you do that? All this is private land. We
Oh.
don't control this.
Yeah.
So we lobbied for the inclusion of a special provision, and it's called POPOS. It means privately owned but publicly accessible open spaces. Meaning to say, if you are a landowner or a big developer there, you can get certain privileges for building if you also make green space available.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's now part of this urban ecological enhancement subzone. Of course, it still needs continuous struggle and advocacy, but the initial core idea of an alternative to deal with land use and to enhance private people to say, Sige, I'm willing to let my land be even a small area of a few hundred square meter that can become a public space, something like that. You need creativity in dealing with private lands and still make it green, make it accessible.
But you know, the thing of Shrine Hills is they cannot really ignore our call to make it to make it green, to protect it, because the hill is hazardous. According to the Mines and Geosciences Bureau hazard map, part of the hazard map, they made one for Shrine Hills. That was nice for our advocacy because we use that. We use that. This is hazardous, so you better pay attention to that. That's the government using this. But before that, before this thing came out, then, well, we can only rely on the study of the developers for their own land. We said, then we asked the government, make a comprehensive study of the whole thing. And Inday Sara was very good. No, she said, yes, we will make a comprehensive study. No, but then that was not anymore possible. That was not anymore needed because there is this hazard map, which the government listened to anyway. So that was good, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the
And
water
this
of
is,
Shrine Hills.
that particular category called privately owned, publicly accessible
Open
space.
spaces, open green.
that's an innovative policy, ano?
In fact,
Who?
well, in fact, we did research on that. No?
He did research.
Well, but it's in fact, if you Google it, no, you find it in other places also. Popo or Popos under slightly different categories, but it's even in some big American cities they use that, and so we thought, why can we not
Yeah.
creatively work with such a concept
Yeah.
that we enhance the livability of our city.
Yeah.
So
It's great, huh?
yeah,
Like the
Livability. Talking about
green
livability.
space.
Parang ano eh, parang ano ba yun, related na rin nga ito sa about ano eh, a senior citizen activist. What have we learned over the years? One, the very first thing I learned from the Federation of P-Palmers, si Jerry Montemayor pa, sabi na, Ed, if you want to succeed in pushing something democratically, you must combine the power of principle and the principle of power. And the whole idea of power of principle is hindi lang your rights, but you can argue it in terms of acceptable principles ng government itself, other literature, science, and all that. But even the best of arguments will not succeed if there is no power behind it. Citizens,
Yes.
but also allies within government or
Yes,
even
that's true.
allies within private sector who are willing.
Yes.
I think yours is an interesting case study of combining using the whole range, from felt needs ng tao, hazard, science,
Yes.
getting allies from government. Maganda. It's a interesting case.
Another one, Ed.
What more?
Another one, Ed, which the government listened also. It's good. Inday Sara is quite okay with environment, huh?
Yeah.
And then, what's that? The 10% green space that's
Mhm.
required of subdivisions. That's only for Davao City, huh? For
Yeah.
developers. For
Kasi-
what's the housing developers, they're required to give 10% of their land for green spaces. No concretes, but trees, plant trees there. No, something like that. But because what's that? By law, the subdivisions are required to have open spaces for canals, for roads like that. But then we lobbied for something green. So add something. So then 10% green space. That was also nice. No, that the government listened to that, and then it's also part of the Davao City policy.
Is that part of what? City development plan, city land use
Yes,
plan,
yes.
or ganon?
Ano?
Yung
It's
10%
part of
open space,
10%
which you now sharpen to green space, ganon?
Yes. Itong 10% green space, this is required for the subdivision developers. Diba? Na meron silang open spaces nga, no? So,
hindi green.
meron din, pero hindi naman green. So we are advocating for greening Davao, greening Davao. So, meron silang mga covered courts, mga ganon. That's part of the required by the housing, no? But then for Davao, we added 10%. Davao City Council added 10%, but it was also a long struggle.
Yeah.
This 10% green space in, because the housing subdivisions, especially the what is that? Not the high end. There are no public spaces. There are no green. Very dikit-dikit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dikit-dikit. But the community mortgage plan people,
Yeah.
wow, they said, wow, 10% of our area would be very big. No? Would be very big. Wala na kaming land. So then we again sort of then build vertically so that you can have space for your parks, for your vegetable paths, and like that. So in fact, the city now is also into growing vertical for the medium, well, we have condos here, that's for high end, but so that's the city is quite good in that, no?
Yeah, we
But
usually we
to-
don't from Manila, you don't hear too much pa about these efforts citizens to advocate itong green space. It's an important, magala inspiring story yan. Because remember, my gosh, Davao is the third biggest metropolitan after NCR and Cebu. Davao is the third metropolitan, and of course, everyone says urbanization is inevitable. But again, the question is, how can we make urban more green and not always just growth and development in the traditional sense, no? But I mean, just asking, okay, I don't know man, you will do it even if you're the only one doing it. But I mean, uh, what is your sense? Are there other citizens groups that you are linked with? Are there more and more Dabawenyo residents who are advocating this
Green
vision of green spaces in urban areas?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, there are in the city. No? Here
Talaga?
in Davao, yes, there are. There are. Because we have a loose coalition
Yes,
we
yes.
call Sustainable Davao Movement.
Ah,
Sustainable
okay.
Davao Movement. We are encouraged by the sustainable, what's that?
The
Goal.
Sustainable Development Goals of the
Yes,
United
of the
Nations.
United
They really
Nations.
inspire. Yeah.
And
Oh,
then our focus then there is the sustainable cities, no?
Yeah.
Sustainable goal
Right.
11.
Goal number 11.
That's why
yeah.
parks, open green
Right.
spaces, like that, no? But other SDGs also are touched.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also, I think the other language they talk about like a new urbanism or something like that. Ano? Another way of thinking of cities, no? Not simply as you say, lalo na sa Philippines, walang planning yan. Sige lang nga sige. Helter skelter. No overall planning, including transport. But I think right now, so there is this loose coalition
Yes,
to have
yes.
a livable cities, no sustainable cities.
Well, one of the things we are pushing with this Sustainable Davao movement is also, again, the parks. No, there. How much park space does a city need to have? That's the question.
Right.
And there are international standards for that.
Oh.
Basically, the principle spelled out by the FAO and the World Health Organization is you should have 9 square meters
Fair.
per citizen. Meaning to say, if you
As
put
parks.
everything together, in Davao it would be 9 square meters times 1.5 million inhabitants or something, no?
Yeah.
But give and take, it would mean that Davao City, well, could make good use of parks to the size of anywhere between 400 to 700 hectares.
Ooh, wow.
Total, in
And
total.
look, a city that is 245,000 hectares in area,
Yeah.
700,
Okay.
it's not so big, no?
So yeah.
It could be, but we keep, because officially, according to the housing board, in the Philippines, basically the standard is half a meter. Half a
Okay.
meter, that's nationally even in all cities basically. So our own standard is only 6% of the international standard. So we kind of keep on pushing that.
Yes.
And motivate the city. Okay, the 10% of the subdivision developers, that's good. But besides that, can you city purchase, for instance, certain areas that become big, accessible, open spaces for citizens? Huh?
Yeah.
Because we don't have in Davao. We don't have anything substantial.
We have the People's Park, it's 2 hectares.
The People's Park, 2 hectares.
Yeah, but that's and even that is built up already. It's not all.
Yes.
A self-respecting city like Davao City should have, according to many standards, something like 50 parks of 50 hectares, or if not 50 hectares, a hierarchy of parks.
Yes,
Bigger
different.
ones,
Yes.
smaller ones.
Pocket parks and then bigger parks.
Because
Regional
the
parks.
principle also of the World Health Organization is sana, nobody should live farther away than 1.5 kilometers from a green space. Di ba?
Wow.
This is also an interesting thing
Yeah.
to lobby, to plan, and to
Yeah.
push around, no? Di ba?
Yes, we're learning something very new, Arnold and Norma.
Mr. and Mrs. Green Space.
Yeah.
Uy, now,
Livable cities.
it's already 4:08.
Yeah.
We have to go to our third
Yeah.
segment.
Yes.
Okay.
we always tell our guests and mga listeners that in addition to their specific causes, focus, passion, we should devote at least a few minutes, 15, 20 minutes to us as senior citizens.
How do you survive
How
the
to survive this
COVID?
time, and what have we learned from life, and
What is your maintenance?
But before that, I told Arnold that I will flash two pictures of the family and their children and grandchildren. So you tell us, syempre, all of us are senior citizens. You talk of ensuring that we have successor generation to continue the work we do. So let's start muna with, this is all only from their Facebook page. If you want to know more about them, look for their Facebook page. The first one is silang dalawa dun sa kanilang, and then ito naman, I think it must have been one of your family pictures. Dalawang children. Talk to us because interesting story rin. I remember even their schooling in Antique and when they transferred to Davao. Can you tell us something about your two children and then later your grandchildren?
Si Bayani, yung aming son, ay
Yeah.
veterinarian.
Yes.
He must be a very good one because he has now 2 clinics and is constructing another one.
Wow.
Aside from being guapo, he's very good with his art, art craft, no? And then our daughter Maya, Maya is also what's that? She started a school, Waldorf School in Davao, but she left that, and now she is with an international NGO. She is the branch manager here in Davao City.
Oh, really?
So
Why does she call herself Flo? What is FLOW?
Maya flows. That's sige.
I guess it has to do with she
Writing.
writes and she's very good at it.
Yes.
This kind of idea of writing flowing stories. That's the way I
Yes.
interpret her on
Okay.
Facebook. Let it flow.
Let it flow. And
Yeah.
that's she likes to write a book someday. No, and then this writing flow stories, that's just a practice for her to be
Yeah.
able to make one someday.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
she interviews people with very nice experience from what's that, bad to good.
Yeah,
Something
well,
like that, no?
But I want to connect them also to our farm in
Yes.
the watershed, because for us it's very important that it's not us, but the next generation. How
Correct.
many good years do we still have?
Oh,
Yeah.
20 more.
So we encourage them to be engaged, and Bayani has started now also a goat breeding project in the farm. So we have at this
good.
moment something like 15 to 20 goats. And so that's nice. And Maya
Yeah.
wants to start with a more systematic approach to mushrooms. And
Okay.
so anyway,
And to write about it, tell Maya the story of the farm and its implication. Ganda. It's
The
great.
land of the brave.
Oo.
so we
And
hope
then what about your, well, syempre, alam mo naman, we are really most vulnerable to grandchildren.
Cute. Nice.
And by the way, for those who are watching po, I used their picture on their wedding anniversary for the poster because ang
Naka-red.
ganda eh. Red na red.
yeah.
Tell us about your apo and how to be lolo and lola.
Our apo, this Nino, the one that he sings well, and he has many instruments already because
Oh.
the papa also sings plays guitar. Now the lolo, the other lolo,
Yeah.
gave him violin, and they have they're surrounded with music, so he likes that. No? And then the little girl is catching up also. That's Gia. It's very nice. These two,
Galing.
but two different people. But nice. What else? You say some more.
But we also try to instill in them this kind of ecological
Yeah.
consciousness, no, by
Yes.
helping to water the plants,
Oh
even
yes.
helping to harvest some mangosteen in the lower branches, which they could get themselves, that type of
Harvesting
thing, no?
talong. Harvesting talong.
Yeah, so
Helping the mama plant some herbs.
so it's nice that
Nice.
hopefully the coming generations will be much more conscious and much more well versed in caring for environment than we are.
Okay, so the remaining 10 minutes or so, let us get back. We started personal, we end with personal, kayong dalawa. Looking back, because as I'm saying, the spirit of senior sa panahon ng COVID is one thing we have which others don't have, is we have lived longer on this world. So the only question is, what have we learned so far that we like to just reflect on, whether it's about coping in this time of COVID or in general. What reflections do you want to share with our listeners? It doesn't have to be profound, but just we have our last 15 minutes or so, or 10 minutes. We are listening now to Arnold and Norma.
Arnold will start.
Well, what I realize is, it's nice to be able to take it more relaxedly. In whatever you do, and the experience here in Davao, things need time. You need time yourself. Whatever you do, whatever you develop, it's things don't happen fast. And but try to live with that. Well, yeah.
Yeah, but we have to persevere. One counselor said, Norma, you're very persistent regarding this Ryan Hills, huh? Very persistent, she said. So that's good, no? So that's it. We have to be very persistent in what we would like to change. What we can change, sige, move, no? But then, what's that? There's the saying, God grant me serenity to
Accept what you cannot change.
and change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Bitaw. So,
That's true.
I think also at what you said in the beginning, plant development. I think it's based on a Greek saying, no, development or progress happens when old men plant trees in the shade of which they know they will never sit. That is very.
But we sit.
Yeah, no.
You got lucky.
It's almost saying continue your effort
Yes.
and die standing, or continue your effort as long as you can. It's
That's true.
yeah.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. Yeah.
And yes, and we cannot anticipate everything, but the whole idea, as you said, you plant something and you know more will benefit than even those you are planning to. So think that way, which is very different from very short-term market calculations or even political calculations. You immediately want to see everything that you had planned for the soonest. But yeah, there are certain things, as you said, they simply will take longer.
Oh, how do you keep naman healthy? In love. We always say, how is your sex life?
Life.
Yes.
So we always, what's that? We always drink fresh orange juice.
Wow.
Every morning, that's the thing of Arnold. He gives me a glass of freshly, what's that?
Squeeze.
Squeezed orange
Orange
juice.
juice.
That's our vitamin.
Ah.
And then we
After the orange juice,
then we eat breakfast.
Right.
are you half vegetarian or are you mixed?
Pescatarian or
Mixed.
omnivorous.
Yeah, we are mixed. Basically, we have a very heavy, or we stick a lot to vegetables and fruit
Plant-based, yeah.
as the basic thing, and
Not so much meat.
seldom meat,
Except
perhaps once a week or once or twice a week.
Except what? Except chicken. Chicken from
Range.
organic growers.
Yeah, free range chicken. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
What about we're just mentioning because people always say what during COVID, I mean,
COVID.
did you undergo period of anxiety, worry? How did you cope with it? How did you adjust? Ganon.
wait lang. Ako, what's that? Parang afraid, no? Kasi ganyan man. Pero with Arnold and Bayani, they're so scientific. They can explain. So okay lang. So, but my thing, for example, was nawala yung aking katulong. Kasi nawala. she lives far. She lives in an urban poor area, and then she comes every day. But that's quite
Yeah.
dangerous, no? So kaya sabi ko, wag na lang. Since March, wala kaming katulong. Yan ang aking bad experience sa COVID na to. But the positive thing is, well, we can meet through Zoom like that. So no more worry na mag-meeting doon, mag-meeting ganyan. Easy lang, no? In terms of meetings, no? Kaya that's the positive thing of COVID. At saka, what's that? In our subdivision, it's very nice naman. Parang barrio ba?
You can walk around.
You can walk, and then it's many greens. That's below Shrine Hills naman kasi, no? And then what else? We have a farm. We can go to the farm.
You can go to the farm.
Yes, we can go to the farm.
The good thing is that the farm is within city limits, even
Yes.
though it's
So there's
35
Yes.
kilometers from here, so we can go there. There was a period we could not go, but that's, of course, being able to go to the farm and commune with nature and do things is very powerful.
Do forest breathing.
Yeah.
Forest shower.
Forest
Forest.
But I guess the worry we always have is also the COVID and the children, the grandchildren, because Bayani has these 2 clinics. How do you deal with customers, with people bringing their dogs? They have developed a system that people stay outside in a tent near the
Outside the clinic.
and only the patients, the dogs, go inside the clinic. So it seems to be working. But yeah.
And Maya is doing her meetings through Zoom.
Also.
Always busy, so that's okay. So far,
do you feel any need or impulse to do a bit more writing about your life experience, reflections?
It could be. It's nice. I feel.
Si Arnold yan, kasi siya yung manunulat.
Arnold, it's
also the context of our farm, and then in fact, I'm also encouraging other older people who I know and who have an interesting story.
Yes.
Telling them when will we read your memoirs, the memoirs of people. So many stories are terribly interesting. It's such a learning. Yeah.
Your story.
No, really. I mean, just on my end also, all of us, in a way, you would call it our generation. We set out to try to make a difference and changes. And the spirit continues, but more important, what did we learn through all those years that we can pass on? I mean, development work, transformative work, environment, it will not end. But sana naman is what we have learned, we'll tell them, look, try this because we have tried it, and maybe you can shorten or make or improve what you are doing because you have benefited from our own experiences. No, I really think. I mean, when I say that to others, I also point to myself. No, and to some extent, this kind of interviews always stimulates me to say, no, I better interview myself also. But I mean, just embracing that at some point, you or the children might say, yeah, why can't Arnold and Norma host a series also of interviews with people you want to write? Then, mura. I mean, it's next to no cost, just have a Zoom account. And even if it's only a dozen sa simula or later if you done who listen, ang laking difference rather than being overwhelmed by so much negative and useless news on social media. Di ba? I think I'll encourage you because really the two of you, hindi matatawaran ang karanasan ninyo. I mean, Anyway, we are in our last 7 minutes, so we give you the last 4 minutes or so, or greet anyone, and we will be acknowledging the last 2 minutes lang. Okay, it's all yours, Arnold and Norma. Thank you very much.
What shall we say? it's nice you thought of us. But you know,
Oh, of course. Matagal na. We're just looking for the right timing.
sabi ko one time, sabi ko, Arnold, sana ikaw interviewin ka ni Ed. Kasi ang dami,
Nabasa agad namin.
narinig mo pala.
Oo, yung mga diwata. Oo, sinabi na. Oo.
O, marami siyang maraming yung mga nagagawa dito. Noon, sabi namin, parang coming to Davao is a big city compared to
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It's very small. But when you are involved in something, the bigness of Davao doesn't matter really, no?
Yeah.
Kasi, and then you have people to link with, no? Okay lang. Pwede. Pwede pala. Davao is not that big, really. No? If you are involved and then you meet people, so then it's, we say, ikaw. So small world pala. Parang you notice that. No? Yan ang Davao. Okay ang Davao. Kasi ang Davao green man, no?
Yeah.
Very good. Compared with Antique, for example, this is really quite green. Now we can see the Shrine Hills. The green of Shrine Hills. Yeah. And then, kasi always spring ba? No, always green. Ikaw, Arnold.
No, anyway, you know one thing perhaps I can share is we started this NGO.
Yes.
Interface Development Interventions, and just last, when was it? A year ago, we added the for sustainability before
The S was added later.
But everybody felt, what is this?
this?
We have to improve the name, and it's very nice also that it's not easy for NGOs to function.
Yeah.
Also, the continuity of leadership.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm happy about is that in this NGO, we are still involved. We are still as volunteers, etc. But with that, the change of leadership,
Wow.
it's being managed, and creativity abounds. Young people come in, people who are very savvy in internet and things like that. Like one of the things the NGO is now developing and is managing is this whole thing of it's around walkability of the city.
Yeah.
And basically through what? Through identifying the big trees in the city. All big trees should get a status as much as possible. Like what happened, I think, in Quezon City. I don't know to what extent, but that they call it heritage trees. Can we give? They have been there for us. They are there for. They can be there for us for a long time if we take well care of them. If, for instance, in Singapore, they would even divert the road in order not to hit a tree. Perhaps we won't go that far here in Davao, except perhaps secondary roads. But it's important to keep on pushing it, and so that we become a city with a lot of street trees. That it's enjoyable to walk here. Post-COVID, that type of thing, no. So that's it's a challenge for NGOs to live up to this kind of continuing renewal and reinventing oneself to deal with new challenges and opportunities.
Yeah.
That's
in a way, it's like you have two streams for continuity. Our own children and grandchildren, and the other in our work is not just the staff but also the leadership of organizations we have started. No, may saying dyan si John Maxwell that there is no success without succession.
That's good.
Nice. And successor not in simply administrative, but as you say, carry on the ideas and improve on it. No.
Yes.
I think in a sense, I'm glad that you have that sense ngayon. Kami nag-worry rito kuminsan about what we can do. But I'm glad, no?
Marami
Hindi naman. Anyway, it's 4:29. My gosh, that passed very
Bravo!
quickly.
Bravo.
So,
Yeah.
it's time for the formal